Today's Dafyomi is Nedarim Samach Beis. We're going to start in the bottom of Samach Aleph from a Beis at the two dots from the bottom. It says if a person takes a vow that he's not going to drink any wine, then it means if he says until the kayetz ends, the kayetz is the time of the harvest. The Gemara assumes that there was a debate about it, but it seems to be the general position, the ruling position is the end of the fig harvest. Then it means until they put away, until the maktuot are put away. The maktuot are these knives that they use as part of the fig harvest. So Tana that if you take such a vow, it's not until you put away all of the knives, means it's not when all the knives are put away, but until the majority of the knives are put away. Once the majority of the knives involved with the fig harvest are put away, then we could assume that he's reached the time of the kayetz and the vow is no longer applicable. On the top of Samach Beis Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, Tana hukpulu rov hamaktuos. Hey, so we say, here's the Gemara on top of 62a. Tana hukpulu rov hamaktuos. That once the majority of the, here you go, my friend.
Thank you.
Aaron Zamir is here with us in person, in case you're wondering why you didn't see him on the Zoom. So 62a at the top. Once the majority of the figs are put away, mutaros mishum gazel, then it's not considered theft if you take the figs that are remaining, upituros min ha'maisros, and you're exempt from a tithe. So why are you exempt from theft? The Ran explains because the person who owns it gave up hope on it, he abandoned it. And because they put away all their figs, they put away the utensils that they used to harvest the figs. So therefore, we're going to say that he does it. It's like he declared it onerous, and you're exempt from meiser because it says in Deuteronomy chapter 14, Levi, that the Levite will come and take the tithe because he has no inheritance with you. This excludes the hefker that he has. If it's hefker, if it's onerous, he has a portion with you, and so therefore that's not included in the. That's not included in the obligation to tithe. So Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda ikru ahu asra bisman shehukru rov hamaktuos. We're going to tell a series of stories now. Rabbi and Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda, they came to the place at the time of the folding of the closing up of the. Most of the knives, the fig knives, are put away. Rabbi have a ka'achel. We assume we're talking about figs. Some say grapes, but most in the Gemara assume that it's figs. So Rabbi was eating the figs because most of the maktuos were put away, so he's allowed to. Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda lo achel. Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda was not eating it. Also marahon. So the owner of these fig trees came by, and Amalo, he said to them, "Amaylo achli rabbanan." He said, why are the Rabbanan not eating these figs? Most of the fig trees have been put away. But still, even though he said this, Yossi bar Yehuda was still not eating it. Why? He said, this guy didn't really mean it when he said it. He was just saying it sarcastically. He was upset that they were taking the figs because that he didn't really mean it. The first explains me roll away by Yomer came. And Yafa. Low if Kiran. He said he felt like he didn't really make them onerous yet. So that's the first story. Rabbi Chaim bar Rabbi Chanina came to a specific place. Most of the figs were put away. So he was eating from the figs. He gave it to his attendant. The attendant didn't eat it. He said to his attendant, "You're allowed to eat it." Rabbi Yishmael bar Rabbi Yossi mishum aviv This is what Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yossi said in the name of his father, Hukbu Rova Maktuos, that once the majority of the figs were put away, Mutaris Mishum Gezel, Paturis Min Meiser. Then we're going to say it's no longer considered to be theft, and you're exempt from Meiser. Now we have a story that figured prominently in the teaching of the Rambam, Rabbi Tarfon Ash Kefayahu Gavra, Bizman Shukbu Amuktaus. So the Ka'achil. Rabbi Tarfon, a man found him that he was eating from his figs after the time where the figs were put away. The man was very upset at him, and he stuck Rabbi Tarfon in the bag because he said, "You're a thief." So he stuck him in the bag, and he took the bag, he was taking the bag to throw it down the river. It's basically going to kill him. Amar Lo, so Rabbi Tarfon shouts out, "Oy lo Tarfon shazar hargo." He says, "Woe to Tarfon that this person is going to kill him." Meaning Rabbi Tarfon said, "I'm in trouble." Shama Gavre, the man heard this. He heard that this was indeed the great Rabbi Tarfon. So what did he do? Shama Gavre, the man heard this. Shavke put Rabbi Tarfon down, Ba'arak, and he ran away. So now is where it gets very interesting. He says, all the days of that tzaddik, Rabbi Tarfon was very upset about this incident because he had misused the crown of Torah. He says, Kol Yom of Sha'os Tzaddik, I am mitzvah devar za'amar. I wish in ishtamashli with kitcher shal Torah. He says, woe to me that I've misused the crown of Torah. The Ran explains that he put him down when he told him he was Rabbi Tarfon. So the only reason why he put him down was because he was giving honor to his Torah. So we see from here that he had misused the crown of Torah. That's what Rabbi Tarfon was saying, even though he was justified in taking the figs. Amar Rabbi Barachana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kol Mishtamish B'Kitra Shal Torah, Nakar Min Ha'olam. Whoever misuses the crown of Torah is going to be uprooted from the world. And we learn out from a Kal V'chomer, we learn out from a logical argument. Ma Belshazzar Shenishtamesh B'Kli Kodesh She'asa Kli Chol. Just like Belshazzar. Now, who was Belshazzar? Is the king of the Persians. And what did he do? He used the temple, utensils that have been the utensils of the Beis HaMikdash that became krichol, that they became deconsecrated. As it says, Ubauba Pritzim Vichilurua, that the Pritzim came and desecrated the utensils of the temple. And so Belshazzar used them. And because Belshazzar used them, then as a result of this, he became Nekar Min Ha'olam. He was uprooted from the world. As it states, Ba Balayla Katil Bashaltzar Mishtamish B'Kitra Shaltar. Ba Balayla Katil Bashaltzar. Came that night, the angel came that night and killed Belshazzar. So therefore, Mishtamish B'Kitra Shaltar Shulchai V'Kayim La'olam Ma'achas Kam V'Kamra. So somebody who misuses the crown of the Torah, which endures forever, how much more so is he going to be uprooted from the world? So that's Rabbi Tarfon's argument. Rabbi Tarfon was saying, I misused the crown of Torah, and the crown of Torah endures forever, and therefore, and if Belshazzar, all he did was he misused the utensils of the temple, but they had already been deconsecrated. And since they had already been deconsecrated, they weren't as holy, they weren't as sacred. And nevertheless, if he was punished for that, how much more so am I going to be punished? That's what the argument that was made by Rabbi Tarfon. But so first of all, the verse, what I want to point out, this powerful point, as today's is the Zos Chanukah, it's the last day of Chanukah, and it says the pasuk that's cited is Ubogo Pritzim V'Chilulua. The Pritzim came and desecrated the temple. Now this is a pasuk from Ezekiel, but the Gemara in Avodah Zarah tells us that this pasuk is referring to the desecration of the temple by the Chashmonaim, by the Hasmoneans. Not by the Chashmonaim, by the Yevanim during the time of the days of the Chashmonaim. during the times of Hanukkah. So we see from here that our Daf Yomi is referring to the desecration of the temple during the time of Hanukkah. So that was what Rabbi Tarfon said. Rabbi Tarfon said he should not have misused the crown of Torah. The Rambam cites this Gemara as a proof that somebody who teaches Torah should not use it as a crown and should not take salary for their teaching. That's what the Rambam says. He says, look, Rabbi Tarfon wasn't even willing to take a salary, and he was allowed to do it. He was not willing to take his crown of Torah. So how do people get paid today? So a lot of people find allowances for people to be paid today for teaching Torah. One is, first of all, be greater disrespect for them not to be paid. Today, everybody is paid. There's a whole world where people didn't get paid for thinking back then. You only got paid for doing their work, for working in the field. But also, the people get paid for schar batal, concept we discussed before. What? Yeah, what do we say? Yeah, we just did that. People are not allowed to be paid, but they get paid for schar batal.
Rav Tzriel got a degree in English literature so that he would get paid whatever the salary was for teaching. That he could have been teaching that instead.
Yeah, you could have other skills. Exactly. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Tarfon, given to decree achel the hukpu rov maktos have a amait tzare ahu gavra. So the Gemara says, well, Rabbi Tarfon, since he was eating it after the knives were already put away, why is this man attacking him? I mean, the knives were put away. The guy was allowed to take from the fakes. No, this farmer had a rough year. Everybody had been stealing his grapes. But even the Ashkel Rabbi Tarfon, once he found Rabbi Tarfon, he said, well, this is the person who stole. This is the ganef. Well, Yahachi might see nafshay. So if that's the case, well, what did Rabbi Tarfon do wrong that he was afflicting himself? Now, if you're going to say that he didn't do anything wrong, it wasn't his fault. The guy was upset because somebody else was stealing his grapes, and Rabbi Tarfon wasn't doing anything wrong. So the Gemara explains, Mishum Dahav, Mishum Da. So the Gemara explains that the answer is because Mishum Rabbi Tarfon, Asher Gadol Havev. Rabbi Tarfon was very wealthy. He could have bought his way. He could have just paid the guy money instead of misusing the crown of Torah. Ben Yoyada points out that Rabbi Tarfon, the name Rabbi Tarfon, why does he say Oilo Tarfon? Why didn't he just say Oili? Well, he said it's my affliction. Why does he say Oilo Tarfon? Ben Yoyada points out that Rabbi Tarfon was saying that his name was the problem because the name Tarfon sounds like words that appear in last week's parasha and this week's parasha. Tarof Toraf. That it says about Yosef that a wild animal tore him apart. And so therefore he was saying that this was the fault, that it was the name that was bad luck for him. So the Gemara says, Tanya, you're after the person is required to love Hashem your God, to listen to his voice and to cleave to him. A person shouldn't say, I'm going to read a lot of Torah so people could call me a chacham. I'll study Torah uni Rebbe, or I'll teach Torah so that I'll study Torah so that call me Rebbe. Eshnan sheya zakein isha b'yeshiva, or I'll teach Torah to people so that I'll be called a zakein, and I'll sit in the yeshiva and I'll be the rosh yeshiva. Now, if you're doing it for those reasons, it's very, very bad. Learn from love, and then in the end, the honor and the glory will come. You shall tie them on your fingers, you shall write them on the tablet of your heart. The Omer, it says, his ways are ways of peace. The Torah is a tree of life for those who hold on to it and support. Those who support it are happy. I'll say dvarim l'shem palam v'diber b'hem l'shmam. V'daber b'hem l'shmam. He says you shall do words for the sake of the one who created them, do them for God, and speak for them in the name of God. This is the pasuk from. This is a statement that also appears. Misachas Derech Eretz Zuta Perak Beis. Al ta'aseh mataro es gadel b'hem. Don't make the Torah a crown to make yourself great. This also comes from Pirkei Avos, chapter 4. Don't make the Torah a crown to make yourself great. Al ta'aseh kordom uyos oderbo. Don't make it a tool to hoe with, meaning the Torah shouldn't be a tool just to help you with your menial labor. But Kal v'chomer, we learn this Kal v'chomer from Belshazzar. Shalom eshtamish al b'kui kodesh shenasu klichol. That Belshazzar was using the holy utensils which had become deconsecrated already, and even though they had no longer had the holiness of the temple on them, Nekar min ha'olam, he was destroyed from the world. And mishtamish b'keter shel Torah arachas kam v'kam. If a person is going to actually use the crown of Torah, misuse it, how much more so is he going to be in trouble and uprooted from the world? Amarava sharale leinchi. A person's able to let people know in the place where people don't recognize him. He's allowed to say, listen, I'm actually a great Torah scholar. You don't realize it. I'm actually a Torah scholar. So what's the source for this? The source of this comes from 1 Kings 18:12. Your servant will fear God from his youth. This is a statement that Elijah made to Elijah the prophet when Elijah found Elijah and told him to go tell Achav that Elijah was going to come back and take away the famine, take away the drought. Elijah said, why are you making me the messenger? And Elijah said, I've always been a God-fearing person. So if that's the case, El Kashi the Rabbi Tarfon. So why didn't Rabbi Tarfon tell everybody he was why didn't he just tell him I'm Rabbi Tarfon? Why did he feel like he did something wrong? So the Gemara gives the same answer. The Ashur Gadol Haya Rabbi Tarfon had a different. This is the last resort to tell the people you're a Torah scholar. Rabbi Tarfon was very wealthy, and he should have just given him money and wouldn't have had a problem. Rava Ramik Siv. Rava threw two psukim against each other. One pasuk says, Rav, your servant has feared God from his youth. But another pasuk tells us in Proverbs 27:2, that let the strangers praise you, not your own mouth. So if that's the case, how are you supposed to tell people why was Avaja praising himself? Mark explains, how about us with the other way? If people know who you are, you don't have to tell them. If people recognize you, you don't have to say, I'm the best. I'm the best. Because everybody knows you. But by us with the other way, but if people don't know, in a place where people don't know who you are, then you don't have to say anything. Then you should say something. There's nothing wrong with saying something so that they know who you are. Amarava, Sharle Lutur me Rabbana Lamemar, Tur me Rabbana Ana Sharuli Tigra Bereisha. It says, so Rava says, Torah scholar is allowed to say to people, I'm actually a Torah scholar, and therefore you should judge my case first. Meaning to say, because of the honor for the Torah. So meaning to say, you're allowed to say that. But that's only where you come at the same time as the other person. But if the other person is there before you, you're not allowed to jump ahead of him because that's a prohibition. You're not allowed to show favoritism and judgment. But I'm saying if they both come at the same time, then you can take the Torah scholar first. As it states, Tersev, Ubnei David Kohanim Ayu. It says in Shmuel Beis that the sons of David were Kohanim. Ma Kohen Motel Barosh, just like a Kohen takes his portion first. Av Talmud Chacham Motel Barosh. So to a Torah scholar takes his portion first. The Kohen Menalan. How do we know that the Kohen takes his portion first? Because it says V'kidashto Kiyas Lechem Elokecha Hu Makriv. It says he shall make him, he shall be holy. Kiyas Lechem Elokecha Hu Makriv, because he brings the food to Hashem. So therefore, the Kohen gets his bread first. V'tan Dvei Rishmal says V'kidashto. What do we do with this phrase V'kidashto? V'kol davar shebekdusha. And if anything is sacred, the Kohen gets sanctified first. Meaning to say, Liftoach Rishon. The Kohen starts. He makes the bracha first. He gets the first aliyah. That's how the commentaries say Uvarach Rishon. And he makes the motzi and the birkas hamazon. He says it first. We told mana yafel Rishon. And when he divides up, if he's dividing up something with a Jew, with a regular Israelite, they make two equal portion, and the Kohen gets to take which one he wants. That's how the Ron explains it. Mefarish is a little strange, not strange. Mefarish is a little interesting here because the Mefarish says when he divides up with his brothers the lechem upon him. Well, then they're all Kohanim. So what's even the point there? So when they divide up the bread of the temple, but that's only goes to the Kohen. So what do you mean the Kohen goes first? So maybe it means that the Kohen Gadol goes first over the rest of the brothers. It's an interesting there's a lot of things to talk about that. So the Rosh says it means that when you sit down for a meal, the Kohen gets served first. The Pri Megadim says that's only by a Sudas mitzvah, because it says Chol Davar Shebekdusha, by a holy meal. The Tosa says it refers to when you're giving out charity to the poor. If it's a Kohen, he gets first. Tosa writes from it says that what about from the fact that it says in Psachim 50b, somebody who takes the best portion isn't going to get a blessing from it. But here, since it's the law of the Kohen to get first, he's going to get a siman bracha. But today, a lot of people are not market on this. They're not careful about this because today we know that the Kohanim, we're not sure of their lineage. So therefore, a lot of people are not careful about that. We don't have to be as careful. He says a Torah scholar is allowed to say, I don't want to pay my taxes because it says, because it states in the verse from when Koresh, the king of Persia, commanded his servants that they should not place a tax upon the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah, because it says, Minda below v'halach o shalit l'meir ma'aleon. That these three types of taxes, minda, below, and halach, you don't have any permission to put on the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. What are these three taxes? Amar Yehuda, minda zu minas hamelach. Minda is the real estate tax. Below zu kesef gogalta. This is the head tax, and halach zu arnona. This is arnona. Arnona was like the quartering you had to provide for the king's army. This is also very interesting. A young Torah scholar is allowed to say that in those days the priests for those who worship fire, they were able to say, I am a priest or I'm a servant of the fire god, and so therefore I don't want to pay the tax. It's clearly idolatry. But so why is he allowed to say it? My time, everybody knows he doesn't mean it. He's just trying to get out of the taxes, and so therefore it's okay. Rav Ashi had a forest, and he sold it to these fire worshippers. Even though they're not Jewish, they're not allowed to worship. They're not allowed to worship this idolatry. So why are you allowed to give them this forest for them to worship it? They're in violation of Lifnei Iver L'Titei Michshel. You're not allowed to put a stumbling block for a blind person. He said, no, most of the wood is going to be used for fuel and not for the idolatry, and so therefore it's permitted. Ada Katsir, it says in the Mishnah, so that if you say I'm going to not drink wine until the katsir, until the harvest. That means until the people start to harvest the wheat. Of a low katsir sorim, but not the barley. Everything goes according to the place where he makes his vow. Bahar, meaning to say if he was in the mountain, Bahar. We see where the harvest, when he made the vow, was in the mountain, and it's where they do the harvest in the mountain. If he was in the valley, it's when they do the harvest babika in the valley. Ada geshamim, let's say he says until the rains. That means ad sheyu geshamim, or if he says ad sheyu geshamim, or until the rains. What does that mean? Ad shetered revia shnia, until the second rain comes down. The rain is called a revia, and the revia we know that there are three revias. We're going to some Maseches Tanis. We've been learning this at our Mishmar. So there are three revias. And so therefore it means until, if you say until the rains, it means until the middle revia. the second one. Rishbag says, Omer Achi Agia is Mana Shalav. You don't need this actual second rain, you need the time of the second rain. We'll see when that time is on tomorrow's daf. So, but let's say you're taking the vow until the rain stops. That means that means until the entire month of Nisan is completed. That's the position of Divrei Rameir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Pesach. Rabbi Yehuda says it just means until Pesach is completed. Tanya, so we learned in the Brisa. I know there are the kayets begalio. Let's say you made the vow that you're not going to drink wine until the harvest, and you did it in the galley. And then you go down to the valley. Even though the summer arrived in the valleys, also you still cannot eat the wine until the kayets comes in the galley. So the kayets we said earlier on yesterday's daf was the harvesting of the figs, according to most. Some say the harvesting of the grapes. Until the second rain, whereas Rashbag says until it comes the time of the second rain. So we'll stop recording here. We'll go on in person a little bit more. We'll stop recording here, and we'll continue.